since rationality itself is an aspect of consciousness, and rationality is central to our question whether there are rational reasons for believing in God's existence. Arm switch. The likelihood of human existence has become a topic of much interest among scientists, theologians, and philosophers. Some refer to this as the anthropic principle, seeking to explain how man could exist given the vast improbabilities based on all the specific necessary preconditions and variables that are needed in order for human life to exist. To state this issue more clearly, what is the probability of human existence given all the necessary biological and astronomical conditions that must obtain in order for human life to survive and thrive? One calculation has it that the fine-tuning necessary in the universe for human life to exist is 1 in 10 to the 53rd power. To give some perspective to such a large number, philosopher Robin Collins has compared this to, quote, throwing a dart at the surface of the earth from the moon and hitting a bullseye 1/trillionth of an inch in diameter, less than the size of an atom, end of quote. Now, one could imagine, or one could object this line of reasoning by saying we just got lucky. And after all, to use the analogy of the lottery, somebody's got to win. But given the number of independent variables that scientists are just now beginning to appreciate, and the complex relationships between these variables, it strikes me that the analogy of the lottery would be more like having the same individual in a multi-state lottery having the winning ticket each time in numerous lotteries over a span of a number of years. I think we would be justified in suspecting that the lottery itself was not random, as was supposed, but such luck was to be attributed to intelligent interference. In other words, the lottery was rigged. To use another analogy, while it is possible that the specific facial features of Mount Rushmore could be explained by guided or unguided and non-purposive forces of geology and climate, given that the specificity of such facial features bear striking similarities with past American presidents, leads a reasonable person to conclude that such features are thereby design of intelligent agents. To extend this argument further, I want to briefly examine a significant feature of human existence, the apparent existence of consciousness or mind. Now, philosophy of mind can be a daunting topic to tackle, and given the brevity of time, I want to look specifically at rationality. A key aspect of consciousness has a way to examine the relative plausibility of theism and naturalism in relation to the existence of humans who have consciousness. My argument is simply that naturalism cannot account for an objective and meaningful rationality in the context of consciousness. To keep things simple, I will use a simple scenario to illustrate. Suppose we have a student taking a philosophy class, and the professor puts on the board the widely used syllogism, all men are mortal, Socrates is man, therefore Socrates is mortal. You guys got it. Now we want to know what conditions are necessary in order for that individual to rationally consider the syllogism and come to a true belief. Obviously, one must perceive the writing on the board, but beyond perception, what must occur in what we would describe as thinking? The naturalist understanding relies on what is called physicalism, which attempts to explain our mental life as being sufficiently described in physical terms. That is, one's mental activities can be reduced to and or explained by neurophysiological events governed by the laws of chemistry and physics. So on this account, one's thoughts concerning the syllogism can either be explained by or reduced to the correlated brain states. There are quite sophisticated theories about how this could be, and we don't have time to examine their various distinctions. But I want to contend that physicalism in its various versions cannot explain how or why our student comes to either accept or reject the argument as sound and true, and here's why. It seems to me that there are a number of aspects involved in the act of thinking that need to be explained. For the sake of brevity, I will focus on just 4 aspects. First, mental states are characterized by intentional relations to the world and seem to cause other mental states. 2, the existence of abstract propositions and laws of logic. 3, the existence of an enduring self who can reason through an argument from initial premise to conclusion and who plays a relevant role in either accepting or rejecting that argument. 4. The reasoning process itself is a reliable, though not infallible, means of discovering truth about the world. Let me briefly address each aspect and show why I see a problem for naturalism. The first aspect involves what philosophers call intentionality, which attempts to understand how it is that our beliefs and thoughts have an aboutness quality to them. I can think about Socrates. I can think about the concept of immortality. Moreover, the student's mental state of believing that the first two propositions are true in the argument would seem to be a relevant cause for her belief that Socrates is mortal. But on the naturalist view, intentionality and causation by and between mental states seems difficult to explain, if not outright denied by some physicalists. This leads to the second aspect, the existence of abstract propositions and laws of logic. These do not appear to be physical entities, that is, objects that exist in space and time are subject to physical constraints. One may express a proposition or a law of logic in a sentence that is physically written down or orally expressed by physical means. But I can also express the same proposition in various sentences, using different physical linguistic tokens, even differing languages by various means, including ostensibly non-physical instantiations, like my ruminating over the syllogism itself. Likewise, propositions and logic do not appear to be subject to the laws of chemistry and physics. In fact, the laws of chemistry and physics themselves seem to be dependent upon such non-physical laws. The third aspect is concerned with the thinker herself, and this involves the fact that the thinker in our example must be the same I at the beginning of the argument as at the end of the argument. This gets into a significant philosophical debate concerning personal identity through time, which can be quite involved. So I will just make the claim that it seems difficult to explain how we can be enduring selves through time on a physicalist basis. We know that we are undergoing constant physical changes, so how do we explain the continuity of I without resorting to some non-physical enduring aspect of human persons? Moreover, how do we allow for the thinker to have some role in the formation of her beliefs? If my mental acts are strictly the effects of brain activity that are themselves governed, even determined by the laws of chemistry and physics, what role is there for the thinker? The final aspect concerns the reliability of our thinking processes that can lead to truth. I think this is especially important given our question tonight over whether belief in the existence of God is true or not. Let me give you what I take to be a revealing quote from Patricia Churchland, a prolific philosopher in the area of philosophy of mind and a thoroughgoing naturalist. Quote, "Boiled down to the essentials, a nervous system enables the organism to succeed in the 4 F's: feeding, fleeing, fighting, and reproducing. The principal chore of nervous systems is to get the body parts where they should be in order for the organism to survive." She goes on to say, truth, whatever that is, definitely takes the hindermost. I think this quote demonstrates the difficulty for a physicalist account of rationality and truth given their materialistic and naturalistic commitments. On the other hand, the theist is quite comfortable allowing for non-physical entities to exist in a worldview, since according to theism, God is a non-physical rational person. Thus, the existence of consciousness and correspondingly rationality is better accounted for by theism than naturalism. Now that my time is about up, let me conclude with this question. Given that the universe is insufficient to explain itself, the improbability of human existence, and the non-physical nature of human consciousness, is it more reasonable to believe that God exists as a non-physical creator and designer, or to trust in an impersonal material universe as a source for and cause of conscious and rational human agents? I would suggest that for the reasons I have just provided, belief in God is not only rationally permissible, but more plausible given the features of our world than the naturalistic, atheistic alternative. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Professor Gurney. Our second speaker tonight is Martin Erwig. Dr. Erwig is Associate Professor of Computer Science here at Oregon State University. He obtained his PhD in habilitation in computer science from the University of Hagen in Germany. Dr. Erwig's research interests include functional programming, domain-specific languages, and visual languages. His current research is focused on questions of language design and explanations. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Erwig.
Does this work? No. Hello? No? This works better?
No, it doesn't. Now it works. Okay, all right. Thank you. So thanks for inviting me to participate in this debate tonight. Whew, what have I gotten myself into here? When I was asked to participate, I wasn't so sure whether this is a good idea. First of all, I constantly lose debates with my wife, and then Michael does these things for a living, whereas I occasionally can discuss these things on the bus with my bus buddies. But then I always enjoy a lively debate, and well, this topic certainly promises to be one. Okay, so my main argument is actually very simple. Literally, it's a down-to-earth argument. And first I will argue that we should not believe things without good evidence. And second, I will argue that there is no good evidence for the existence of God. And then, Michael has introduced a syllogism. We can conclude, therefore, that the proposition that God exists should be rejected. An important aspect of this argument is that this line of reasoning is nothing extraordinary.